Hey guys, welcome back to another Halo Rants mini rant. Now, as we all know, recently 343 done a asked 343 basically an info dump on what is going to be included and not included in Halo Infinite. We did make a video on that, so go check that out after this one or before, whatever way you want to do it. We don't really care as long as you watch. But essentially, this prompted us to sort of think, me and Bailey, who is here, he's about. Um,
I'm here, yeah.
it prompted us to sort of wonder, or just sort of ask ourselves the question, really, of are 343 listening to fan feedback? Because obviously they have made a lot of games now, and it feels as if they've really made some improvements in some areas and are still yet to do so in others. So I
It,
guess go on.
it's definitely something where you can look back at their history and it goes back and forth whether or not they're listening. So we thought we kind of structured this video basically going through each of the 343 era games, kind of going where they've listened, where they haven't listened, and just kind of going through from there.
Yeah, so get ready for a long one because we've got a lot of games to get through. I suppose we'll start with their first little Halo game. Well, I say a little Halo
Yeah,
game, the remaster, the Halo 3
yeah,
Combat Evolved Anniversary.
which I think going into Combat Evolved, I don't think we need to dwell on it too long, just because there wasn't much people were asking for with it.
No,
Obviously, people like wanted the better graphics, the higher frame rates, that kind of thing. Well, we pretty much got that. It was kind of to be expected. Um,
but when it comes to that, I remember when that first was announced, obviously playing Halo Reach at the time, and I was really excited for it. I was like, oh, it's going to be a chance to go back and play through the old games, actually on the 360. They're going to be improved graphics. Were they? Like, okay, they were
I
obviously
mean,
improved
they were
slightly,
they were improved graphics compared to the original. That the
but
original were at that point very dated. But yeah, the
it
new graphics, which I think partly was just down to the fact the game came out late 360 generation.
yeah,
The visuals and all that were just mostly just asset ports from Halo Reach. All the grunt
essentially,
models are the same from Reach. There's a few new things in there, but a lot of it was just kind of in the Reach art style.
it was almost like reskin stuff. Like the Banshees were changed.
Yeah,
Just a lot of the enemies were essentially just Reach models, weren't they? Like the grunts were essentially just the
yeah,
same thing. Another thing, which I recall from that game, God, there were some dodgy hitboxes on the terrain. I remember
yeah.
flying that
I think that
Banshee
was
around and
I
hitting
think that
so many
was
walls.
the major issue with that game that people end up having afterwards was people kind of realized, oh, this remaster, it looks pretty, but the layouts and like the models and all that are completely different between games, and also with like the time settings and all that. You've got some missions set at night time on old graphics and daytime during the new graphics,
That was
and
another thing.
like the
Go on.
overuse of lighting as well, which I think just kind of it wasn't a problem for people, but people didn't like it.
No. Uh, Go just graphically again with that game. Obviously, they included the OG graphics as well as the remaster graphics, which is really cool. But it must have taken about 10 seconds for them to switch between the two in game.
You,
Like you would
you
cut
basically
to
end up
black.
closing your eyes for a while waiting for the graphics to switch,
It
which yes is another hardware limitation thing, but
it is, but it
yeah,
was just awful. I mean, granted, they improve upon that, and we'll touch on that later when we get on to MCC. But it really wasn't. It really
but
wasn't a
yeah,
good remaster, to be
it's
honest.
what this is the new studio. It's their first kind of run at it. You can let most of these slide because they are minor
Well,
nuisances.
also at the end of the day, you cut them a little bit of slack because it's not their game. They have made
No,
what came with that game. Obviously, they've remastered CE, which was made back in 2001, and that I think that game or that game came with the DLC for Reach, which again was obviously a
yeah,
Bungie title, so they didn't really have a fair crack at the whip there.
they were, yeah. This was just basically them modifying two old. Well, Reach wasn't old at the time, but two older games. But yeah, and then I don't think you can really get on to. There's nothing they did drastically wrong here. Like everything's kind of they've been faithful to the original. They literally let you play it as the original if you wanted to. I don't
However,
think there's any issues there.
no.
Then
But
you get, but then you get onto Halo 4,
yeah, I was only going to
and
say, you want to
this
talk
is
about
this is
issues?
where this is where issues in listening to the community kind of rears its head up a bit, because that game, Halo 4, it's not an awful game, and I'm not trying to get it as an awful game, but there were things people were asking for to come back, or like have been staples in Halo, and they just disappeared in Halo 4. And I think that's kind of where problems start to arise.
Well,
Because
going on from that, I think a main one was obviously it was a big issue in Reach actually, was Bloom. Now, obviously
yeah,
for the competitive scene and I guess a slightly less for the casual sort of players, Bloom was a pain in the ass. Like it was just RNG in terms of matchmaking, which obviously had never really been in Halo in terms of actually multiplayer. Um,
no,
Granted, they did turn it down quite a bit, but
yeah, the
it is
bloom
still
that's in
present.
Halo 4 is nowhere near as bad as it was in Breach.
No,
You're not shooting 90 degrees to the left after your third bullet,
no,
but yeah, it's still there and it's still a core feature, and it it didn't do any good for the pro community, and yeah, it did. I think it did damage the multiplayer side of that game when that came out.
definitely. I mean, obviously there was question marks behind how they set up the matchmaking on that game anyway, with like the ranking system and like getting to all the different specialists and stuff, which I personally thought was okay, but the bloom being present in it still really didn't help it.
And
But it wasn't an
you,
awful game.
no, well, they did listen in, well, yeah, they did listen in certain ways, because like, you know, by that point, my last Halo that had Master Chief properly in it was Halo 3, which is 2007, and this game came out, what, 2012 was it?
Yeah, yeah, it's 2012.
So people had like been wanting Master Chief back in a Halo game, and this game went all in on Master Chief. This game is a Master Chief story. You're focused on Master Chief. At no point do you really ever, even when you're on the Infinity and all that, you're never really shown everything else that's going around you. You're focused on Master Chief.
I would
Like
argue it was.
the expanded stuff is all in like Spartan Ops and all that.
Yeah,
I feel,
I would argue
which is a good place for it to be.
it's one of the deeper sort of Master Chief stories that there is because it really does delve into his character and like the emotional
Yeah,
sort of turmoil that he goes through, which was interesting to be honest. I know at the time it really wasn't sort of perceived very well that game, like particularly the campaign. And don't get me wrong, it's got its flaws, but it was a downside better than what we ended up with a few years later.
but as well, just before I go into that as well, the Halo 4, I think once again another issue Halo 4 kind of brought up was free for, like, this was the first 343 game that
Yeah, this was
pushed
the
this new
real
art
start of
style.
their era, wasn't it?
This game pushed the new 343 art style, and it pushed it didn't push it as much as Halo 5 did, but it still was a very blunt, on the nose. Okay, all these visuals have changed. Reasoning behind it, not much.
It definitely wasn't a smooth
And
transition, was it? It was very
yeah,
jarring. You could see it in the cutscenes and in trailers and stuff, and then obviously just
yeah.
throughout gameplay.
Like visually, like it's one of them things which I think 343 took a while to understand. It looks good, but it doesn't look Halo.
No,
It like all of this new like redesign, all that. Some of it does look good. I think personally for me, the elites in Halo 4 aren't too bad. It's when you get into Halo 5 that they start getting a bit
a bit elephanty.
over the top.
I mean, they're
But
definitely a bit heavy in Halo 4 compared to like the slender sort of
yeah,
assassin
they're still
sort of
heavy, but I
type.
feel like they're not these like lumbering oafs
No.
in this game, especially like whereas you have in Halo 5. Yeah, Halo 5's elites were just awful.
Another quick
But
point before we move on. Obviously this wasn't in Reach as again, so you can't really take away from them too much, but it didn't feature dual wielding. which again is something that's
No,
been brought up recently with Infinite News. But
no. But
you feel if any
to be fair,
game would have had it, it would have been brought back
we
in
went
that.
into four, and like as soon as dual wielding was out of reach, people were asking for it back. And like so, 343 knew at this point people wanted dual wielding back. You'll see throughout this, 343 just pretty much ignored that, turned a blind eye to that. They like never. It's similar with the elites. Like people asking back for the elites, silence almost. Like it's just being ignored. They're not paying attention to the people that ask for that. But then,
Go on.
but then like going into Master Chief Collection, which I find really weird. Like they had like the Halo 2 anniversary stuff and all that for. There's basically two parts of the MCCC. That's one extra C there. MCC stuff where they've got the multiplayer side and the campaign side. Looking at the multiplayer side, that for me, that's where the problems lie.
No, yeah. The Halo 2 remaster itself was visually incredible. Those cutscenes
Yeah.
are amazing.
The blur cutscenes and the just the general graphical upgrades and how faithful it is to the original, and even the art style. The art style isn't like Halo 4's. It's classic. It's exactly how it was envisioned back in 2004 was it that
I
came out?
think something like that. There's somewhere around there.
2003, 2004, something around there.
But
But
no,
yeah,
it
all the
looked
visuals
brilliant.
are very faithful to the original, and are literally just if Bungie made that game now, that's probably how it would have looked. But then, yeah, as we were saying, you then look it into the multiplayer, and for whatever reason, for Halo 2 Anniversary multiplayer, they decided to rebuild Halo 2 on the Halo 4 engine,
I didn't actually know they did
which
that.
yeah, it's pretty much a port from the Halo 4 engine, and so everything's kind of built in a similar way to how it is in Halo 4, and it's very weird, it's very alien, it's not quite Halo 4, and it's certainly nowhere near Halo 2.
Well, they started like adding things to it as well, didn't they? Like, didn't they made another multiplayer map, I think, sort
Yeah,
of,
they
which wasn't
added
in
like the
Halo 2,
multiplayer map.
which was a
They
little
added the
bit odd.
multiplayer map as like a we're sorry sort of thing. But yeah, I never got it, and that's the one instance where 343 have actually done playable elite as well. Going back to that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but again, they made them their own, didn't they? Like it
Yeah,
was granted it didn't. It was cool that they were adding more to that game, like giving it a little bit more depth. But they did look a little bit odd. They looked a bit elephanty.
yeah.
It looked like 343 era stuff in
They were
Bungie era
the
stuff.
armors were very chunky
Yeah.
and very bulky. Um, but yeah, in terms of MCC, I think I think that once again that was more lessons learned for 343.
Oh, definitely.
That like they once MCC came out, like that's when they adopted the policy of like we're going to have betas for everything, because the servers on MCC when that launched just did not work.
I
They were
think yeah,
basically non-existent,
they were
and
non-existent.
they've now gone now. Yeah, we're going to have betas and everything. You're going to pre-test everything. We're going to have. I mean, this has evolved into the Halo Insider program now. But yeah,
Yeah,
they are like
which is very cool.
testing
That's a very good
everything that
way.
comes out. Every single feature now is like, yeah, there'll be a beta for it. There'll be a test for it.
Which is definitely a
Which
good way to go. I would
which is
say.
definitely a good way to go.
Because obviously we've seen how
But
long it
the
takes
issue
them
is,
to repair a game properly, as
yeah,
we've seen with MCC, in the sense that it took them about 5 years to get the thing working correctly.
yeah. But like the issue is that I feel like 343 almost went, okay, that's enough. We don't need to listen much anymore. Going into Halo 5, we'll just have a beta for it, and
Granted,
that'll
the
be
beta
fine.
was
That'll keep.
good. I'll
The
be
beta
honest.
was good. That was the issue though. The beta was good, so there wasn't many complaints about the beta.
No,
Then the game dropped, and there was a tsunami of what the fuck have they done?
just
Because
go on.
well, like there are certain things they had listened to in Halo 5, but I feel like they were almost kind of half-assed. Like, oh yeah, people keep asking for this, so we'll throw like people were asking for Promethean vehicles after the Prometheans introduced in Halo 4.
Yeah,
They did that. We only got one, but we got a Promethean vehicle, so I guess we got what we asked for.
we did.
Um,
Um, but again, it was weird. It didn't. Again, it all goes back to the art style for me, because granted we did get a Promethean vehicle, but at the same time we got it in weird 343 art style, which was in Halo 5 even further away from the Bungie era. Like it went weird
yeah,
with it. It
there's
go on.
there's only like a handful of things that are still original in Halo 5. Halo 5's art style pretty much chucked everything that they used to be to one side and went, no, we're forcing this new art style on you. And it was acceptable in Halo 4 because it's a first game.
Sort of,
You can
yeah.
you can let it slide, and 343 have throughout this been trying to modernize Halo, but they have been going about it the complete wrong way.
Oh,
But
definitely.
yeah, Halo 5, after the outcry from Halo 4 about the art style change, Halo 5 shouldn't have then doubled down on changing everything else that remained. The handful of weapons that were still the same in Halo 4 all got changed in Halo 5.
Yeah. Leading on
And
from that, obviously Halo, as we were saying previously, Halo 4 was sort of given us a little bit of a hit and miss in terms of whether people liked the campaign, but it
yeah,
did center around Master Chief, which is something that the fans obviously wanted. You then get into Halo 5, oh, that was very different. There was not a lot
yeah,
of Chief in that game, which people
good
were
luck seeing
annoyed
Chief
about.
in that game.
Yeah, people were very
Yeah,
upset, especially
that
seeing that a
that
lot
that
of people
game.
didn't like Halo 4.
Well, that game as well, kind of. I don't want to call it lies, but there is a lot of very like manipulative marketing in that game.
Oh yeah, the Hunt the Truth promo was absolute bullshit. Like,
The Hunt the
let's not
Truth thing
sugarcoat it.
had nothing to do with it. The like the I mean the original first trailer we got where Master Chief's not wearing the cloak or whatever and walks up to the Guardian. It's got nothing to do with it.
No.
Um, you've got yeah. I mean, I remember there's an advertising image which obviously we'll try and put up here, but there was an advertising image and it's like, oh yeah, there's 15 missions in the game. Like fucking hell, there are. They're all walk and talks.
I was going to say you've got
There's
what,
like
three or four
there's
of
a
them?
lot like yeah, there's like three or four just walk and talk, maybe even five. I'm not too sure. Walk and talk to where you're literally walking around. You go talk to Halsey, go talk to Palmer, go talk to Halsey again. Then you go into another mission.
It's all right though, because you got to talk to the Arbiter in one of them, and he was definitely
Oh,
exactly the same as
but
he was left off in Halo
I
3.
mean, we got what we wanted there as well. We were asking for Arbiter back. We wanted Arbiter back. Like people were saying in Halo 4, like, "Where's Arbiter? We want to know what's going on with Arbiter." We found out exactly what was going on with Arbiter. He's got
I
diabetes.
think it's that man's
Um,
been stuffing his face. He's become a whole new species of elite with a
it,
ridiculous helmet and a way overcompensating energy sword now. It's
yeah,
crazy what
it's
they
all.
done to his art, or like to the concept of
You
him.
could show someone an image of Arbiter in Halo 2 and 3, and then a picture of Arbiter in Halo 5, and they would not think they're the same
I remember
character.
when I first saw it because there was that little cutscene at the end of Halo 2 Legendary on MCC. I was like, who the fuck is this? Like when Locke's talking to him, I think. I was like, is that meant to be Arbiter?
Yeah,
Like, it looks like a completely different bloody elite. It was crazy. Speaking of elites, obviously no playable elites there again. They didn't fancy that in
yeah.
Halo
All
5.
all the dual wielding or any of that. That was all
No.
once
That
again.
that's a definite theme with 343 is they want to try and get that
The,
out of the game.
honestly, I think this like try not to dwell on it too much because obviously we made the video, but I think the Ask 343 thing was kind of the first time I've actually ever properly addressed elites,
It probably
and
was.
where they've actually kind of acknowledged them. They've not really acknowledged it in anything else.
No. No, they haven't.
But
But why add stuff that the fans want when you can add about 12 different Spartan abilities that we were all desperate for?
yeah, but yeah, once again, like 343 trying to modernize Halo, bring it into like the modern era, but
Yeah.
they're going about it the completely
They,
wrong
they
way.
they tried to
Halo's
bring
always
in
been,
advanced movement, didn't they? That
yeah,
was the thing. It was big at the time. You had what Infinite Warfare doing it. You had
Titanfall, Call of
Titanfall, which
Duty,
was majorly
yeah,
successful. And it doesn't work in Halo. The ground pound is really stupid. I like the mantling. I'll give it that. I think that's quite cool.
yeah,
Everything has an ADS. I don't really know why. If it's an assault rifle, you fire it from the hip. You don't aim down sights minimally. It was just a bit odd.
no.
But
But
go on.
like 343 tried to bring in ADSing into Halo, which is it here or there whether you like that or not. But honestly, Bungie, like what Bungie ran off and done with Destiny with ADSing, like you can hip fire in Destiny easily, and you don't feel like you're crippling yourself by doing it.
No, it's a
Halo 5, you're crippling yourself by doing it.
yeah, it's
Uh,
such a drop off in terms of like gun ability on that game if you're not constantly ADSing.
yeah, and then I think another. I mean, once again, they sort of listened. Once that game had launched, they sort of listened. They heard everyone with the outcry of we want we want the classic rocket launcher, we want the reach armors, we want all of this.
Oh
They
yeah.
listened, but only with a price tag on it. You had to buy loot boxes in order to get a chance. Not even you're guaranteed. You just to get a chance to get this classic piece of armor that you loved from Halo Reach,
Yeah.
or to get a rocket launcher that you could use in multiplayer.
Again, similar to the advanced movement stuff, I think that's sort of like telling of gaming during that time period because everything went into microtransactions, didn't it? Like every
Yeah,
game and under the sun was trying to implement them some way. Whether you had the
yeah.
rec packs in five, obviously FIFA's a big provider
Especially
of
at
that.
that time, that was before Star Wars Battlefront 2 with the whole loot box
Yeah,
fiasco. So
that
everything
that
was
set
loot
it off,
boxes
didn't
as
it?
well.
That basically drew it all to a close.
Yeah,
Whereas obviously
but yeah,
nowadays you see more season pass. It's sort of like the big rage at the minute for a microtransaction, isn't it?
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, but as well, like they continue to limit things that have been core in Halo for so long. Like Bungie kept building on and on and on from the customization options. You started off in Halo 1, you just picked your color.
Yeah.
Halo 2, you could then pick an elite.
Well, you had a secondary color as
Halo,
well then, didn't you? Like you
yeah,
could
oh yeah, you had the secondary
blend.
color as well. Then Halo 3, you've got actual different suits of armor, and then Halo Reach, they just went all in on that, and you've got like so many different armors in Reach.
To be fair, they done all
Then
right
you,
in four.
yeah, four was very similar to Reach in a lot of ways, including the armors.
Hmm.
But then you go into Halo 5, and all of a sudden it's literally you pick your helmet, you pick your chest plate, or your main body armor, and a handful of extra misc stuff on the side, like visor or whatever.
Yeah.
But you couldn't customize individual shoulders or individual
No.
bits on your legs or whatever. All that detail was gone.
But again, so much of the stuff was behind a price tag in the sense. I remember some of
Mm,
the helmets on that game. There was like 30 different variants of like a CQB helmet that would one would have a
yeah,
dash on it, one would have a circle on it. It's like I don't fucking care. Just give me the helmet and let me do that myself. You don't need different designated armor pieces for that. You should just have it in the customization like you've had in every other game.
yeah. It should just be a like how the attachments were in Reach or whatever.
Exactly.
You can then flick through a list of different patterns or whatever. If you really wanted to make them patterns separate, go for it. But don't make it so I have to unlock. Or every time I open a loot box, it's like, oh yeah, you've got a new helmet. It's like, no, I've got my 50th CQB helmet, like you said, or whatever.
Yeah. I do think Halo 5 really was the lowest point that
Yeah.
343
But
got to, personally.
but then I feel as well, Halo 5 was the lowest point what the fuck happened? Because then they then immediately went back up with Halo Wars 2.
Yeah, they really did. Again,
It's
with
literally, you can look at the timeline of Halo and you see the lowest point and the highest point right next to each other
yeah,
right now.
we've harped on about it like previously, but I think the return to the art style
The,
really sort
well,
of helped. Or they sort of sort of
this
enhanced it,
new
didn't they?
art style,
Yeah.
it's a new art style again, but it's what should have been done originally, the blending, the merging of the two.
Hmm.
It looks sick, to be honest. It looks so good. It's done so well.
Yeah. Another thing,
And
just keep it in the Halo Wars universe. They really managed to keep it within the Halo Wars universe in the sense that it was very faithful to the original. It wasn't as jarring a jump as what 4 and 5 was, and honestly, probably what Infinite's going to be because there's such a big time jump.
yeah,
They really did just keep it. Granted, it was quite easy with how Halo Wars ended, but they did keep them quite sort of linked, and obviously you can see that with how good reviews it got as a
well,
game.
to be fair, though, like you look at Halo Wars 2 and how they could have done that story. They could have just had their ship get found by random crew, like pretty much how Halo 4 started. You know, their ship's just randomly found, and all of a sudden you're in the thick of it with the new UNSC and all that.
Yeah,
But no, I mean, they're still separated from the new UNSC. There's still no involvement with that.
no,
That and yeah, like there's very few things I feel that have been manipulated from the original one. It is very faithful to the original Halo Wars.
it is, but it
Not
does
mu-
also add a it does add or incorporate sort of reimagined things in the sense that the Banished are obviously a reimagined version of the Covenant, aren't they? But
yeah,
it works so seamlessly, so much so that it is now they are the main villains in Infinite, aren't they? Or you'd think
yeah.
so anyway.
The new Banished was set up so well and tick pretty much every box people have been asking for
Which is crazy because
with the antagonist and the art style and just everything about them. Everything about them is very faithful to like what the brutes are like, what the elites are like, everything like that.
it's just mental
And
because that was obviously introduced. Halo Wars 2 is almost like a side game, isn't it? It's not a mainline game. It's
no, it's not one of the main
hard
FPSs
to
or
think
anything.
that such key sort of characteristics, what are going to be featured in Halo now, have come from that. That's surprising to me.
But even if you look at Halo Wars 2, even just the story's done well. The story's coherent.
Well, it was
you
simple,
think,
realistically. There wasn't a
yeah, it
lot
was a
to it.
simple, reasonable story. I feel like Halo 5 just tried to do so many things it couldn't do, and it didn't need to do, and no one was asking for. Whereas Halo Wars 2 has now kind of taken a step back and gone, okay, we're gonna listen now. I
Well,
feel Halo Wars 2 is the first instance of them actually going, we are listening
yes.
and listening properly.
Which I think now brings us on to the most recent sort of game coming out, Halo Infinite.
Halo
Are
Infinite.
they listening? What do we think?
Uh,
Because it's
see,
50-50.
it's yeah, it is very. I can understand why someone would believe one way or the other because you look at it, you look at the trailers, you think, yeah, they're going with this classic art style that have like started in Halo
Yeah.
Wars 2.
That first
They're being
trailer
faithful
they
to
done
all
at
this.
E3 was big. That really got people believing, didn't it? That
Yeah,
they are turning it around. It's like look how fucking awesome this looks. It's very faithful
but
to the games.
But like, it's going back. It's going back to the focus on Chief. It's back on a Halo ring. It's the first Halo game since Halo 2 that's on a proper Halo ring. For for the majority of the game, it's from what we could tell, it's going to be a fairly simple storyline.
It doesn't look as if it's going to be this expanded mess of characters that Halo 5 was,
No,
where you had all these spare
yeah,
parts that weren't doing anything. It looks like it's going to be Chief, probably Cortana will get thrown in there somewhere. You've got Brohammer, and then you've got fake Atriox at the minute. There doesn't look like
but
there's too much more to it than that right now.
no, but once again, it seems to be multiplayer causing issues. Like, and I don't know if this is the necessary, because obviously the community doesn't all just want one thing. Obviously, everyone wants the next Halo game to be good, but you've got different parts of the community. Like you've got the pro scene, you've got the casual scene, you've got everything in machinima scene, you've got everything else.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I think every part of that community wants things like playable elites, dual wielding, and things like that in the multiplayer. And it's just the pro scene saying that they don't want that.
No,
And
which is a real
343 seem to be
shame.
listening to just the pro scene.
It is a real shame because it shouldn't really be that difficult to implement. As we said in the last video, so I don't want to harp on to it too
No,
long, but it shouldn't be that big
it's
of a use of resources to do it.
it's an issue of like there are certain things which part of the community do they listen to,
Yeah.
and I think for the general kind of history throughout what 343 had done with Halo, they keep listening to the pro scene. They keep doing things that the pros want or
Yeah,
that won't get in the way of the pros.
it would seem so.
But that like I still don't really get what is this story in multiplayer.
Yeah, that was a
Who
weird
cares about this story in multiplayer?
that was a weird
That
thing brought up in that interview. But again, I'm trying not to dwell on the negatives yet because this game isn't even out.
yeah
It seems as if like back to the campaign, it's gonna be a chief story. That it can't be anything
yeah.
else, surely, at this point. It's
Uh,
gonna be focused
the
around
amount
him.
the marketing shows the Master Chief, if it then doesn't focus on the Master Chief, then we are back to basically what they've done with Halo 5, where they're
Yeah.
manipulating the advertising.
Another thing,
And if that's the case, which I don't think they're doing, then this game is doomed. Quite frankly, if they're
yeah,
manipulating the advertising to make everyone think, yeah, they're listening, they're being faithful, when in fact they're not, then this game is dead in the water. It's screwed. I don't think they're doing that.
no.
I think they are genuinely listening, and I hope they are genuinely listening.
But just leading
But
on from the focuses of that game, in terms of less of a focus, it seems as if there's not as much Promethean stuff going on, which I am personally a
no,
huge fan of because the Prometheans drowned out. But they obviously, they was quite cool seeing them introduced in 4. They drowned out Halo 5 so much. It was just it.
yeah,
That was it. That was all you really fought. And it just sucked.
like I'm definitely, for me personally, fine with the Prometheans being in the game, but no, I do not want them anywhere near to the extent they were in 5. They were overdone in 5, and is well, like, if they were in the next game, they need to something needs to change about them because I'm the Prometheans were just so generic, especially in 5. Like the soldiers, that's all you thought was just soldiers. There was
Yeah.
no point in them bringing crawlers in because you just had soldiers.
Again, it was such.
And the Watchers were so rare, and the Knights were just reclassed into hunters. Basically, there
It
was
was
nothing
just
unique
such
about them.
repetitive gameplay. That was the big thing. It was always what you had a precision weapon, either a DMR or a battle rifle. Everything was you needed to shoot in the head. Like it didn't matter
Hmm.
what. You had to go for headshots, and it was so boring. There was no variation in how to play. Um, Speaking of variations, um, there's some very different looking weapons in Infinite at the minute, which makes you wonder
Yeah,
where the others are.
that's another thing. Kind of sat there looking at these new weapons, and they're changing things about how the sandbox of Halo is working and all that. It's just concerning more than anything. It's just why what was the need to remove certain weapons from Halo?
The only
That
thing
you
that,
tried to do it in Halo 5.
yeah,
It
that,
went horribly.
that
But
that's the
I mean, at the end
fear.
of the day, it didn't go horribly for their bank account. You
Yeah,
know that those packs, the Spanker pack and the Reach packs, they all probably pulled in a lot of money,
well, that's the thing. That's
and
my
it
big
worries me
fear.
that they're doing the same thing.
Yeah, you don't want to see this sort of microtransaction recycled within Infinite. We know that they're going to be present because they're going to be with armor shaders, which again is a very strange decision, I think personally. sort of limiting your
Yeah.
customization behind a bank account again. But yeah, I can't understand why. Don't get me wrong, in terms of the spanker itself, that one's good. But the new bulldog and the pistol, um, you've got the only thing because of the backlash they got, you can only think that they're going to implement them later down the line. It's just how do they do that? Do they just come
Yeah.
free or like with a DLC or something, or do
Yeah.
they
Are
end up
they
being a
free? Are they a
microtransaction?
microtransaction? Are they a season pass thing? Like, how are they going to do it, and how much is it going to force me to whip out a credit card?
Yeah,
Because I don't want to, I don't want to spend £60, €70, $80, whatever it is, on a
no,
game just to then, oh, the game that you actually want, yeah, you have to spend about another 50 quid just to get the content you want, the content you've been asking for.
yeah. Which again, we've obviously done before and don't want to see repeated. But I don't know if you have any concluding thoughts or anything. Um,
I think I'm good
no.
there.
I've just got one thing to add. Going back onto MCC, quickly back that way, and it does sort of link to Infinite, really. They did obviously over this like 5 year or so journey of fixing MCC, they did release it onto PC, which
Well,
was
that's
awesome.
that's the thing. Yeah, with MCC, they fixed that game eventually. They eventually
Yeah,
went, yeah,
it's not in a
all right,
bad
we're going to go
state now.
back and we're going to fix it, and now it's in a very playable state. There's not much wrong with it.
No,
My only concern is did they do that because that's what people were asking for, or because they saw an opportunity to make some money off of PC fans and then basically give themselves a springboard for Infinite?
I think part of it came from the mod that was going around previously, the El Dorito mod, which was like essentially just like Halo 3 customs, but all on PC, wasn't it? Like there was loads of
Yeah,
customizations and stuff. I think, or 343 or whoever, Microsoft saw the gap in the market, saw that it was raking in sort of money essentially, and thought, oh, we need to profit off that. That can also open up a way of us getting Halo on PC and with Halo Infinite and all this stuff.
yeah.
So I don't think that that helped, but it
Because
is
at the
still
end of the day,
cool that you can play it
at the
on
end of the day,
PC.
obviously Microsoft and 343, this isn't a passion project for them. They're them here to make money.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
I think they're going to cripple themselves if they don't listen. You're not going to make, this isn't going to be this 10-year game if you don't listen,
No.
because no one's going to be playing the game after 6 months.
Yeah, you'll have a exact repeat of Halo 5. But I suppose we will leave that there.
Yeah.
Unless if you have got anything sort of to add there.
No, I'm all good. I think I've said everything that needs to be said.
Right. Well, thanks ever so much to everybody for watching and tuning in. Especially if you made it this far, I'll give you credit. Like this is a long one. Make sure you let us know what you think about 343. Are they listening? Do you think they're actually gonna sort of take in fan feedback? Because they certainly have in some ways, but there's also a lot of cause for concern. But yeah, thank you guys ever so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that rubbish. You know how YouTube works. You know what we want. But yeah, thank you guys very much, and we will see you in the next one.
I'll see you guys later.